This is the alcohol presentation by Sierra Cook, Amber Morton-Stout, and Michaela Reinhardt. What is alcohol? Ethanol, or also known as ethyl alcohol, is the type of alcohol that is found in all alcoholic beverages. Alcohol can be made in any substance that contains glucose. Through a process called fermentation, yeast is mixed with the glucose in water, and then it produces ethanol and carbon dioxide. It's a common biological reaction that can occur naturally. It can be found in nature with seed germination or ripening fruit. There are 5 agents required for alcoholic fermentation: sugar, water, heat, yeast, and air. The yeast converts glucose to alcohol up to approximately 12%. Anything above this level will have the alcohol become toxic to the yeast, which then dies. In order to raise the ethanol concentration above 12%, the yeast-converted fermentation mixture must be distilled. In distillation, the fermentation mixture is heated and the ethanol vaporizes at a lower temperature than water. When cooled back down, the ethanol can once again be captured as a liquid. There are 3 different types of alcohol that we will discuss in this presentation. The first one would be beer. Beer is made with barley that is turned into malt. The malt is cooked in hot water. Hops are added for flavoring and also as a preservative, and then yeast is added, which starts the fermentation process. There are 2 types of fermentation processes for beer. The location of the yeast placement determines which type of fermentation occurs. On bottom fermentation, heated at lower temperatures, will give you a lager-style beer. And top fermentation, which is heated at higher temperatures, will create ale, stouts, or dark beers. The second type of alcohol we will discuss is wine. Wine is made with grapes, which naturally contain sugar. And during fermentation, the yeast that's added can come from the grape skin, which naturally contains yeast, or in industrialized production, yeast is added to the grapes for fermentation. When making white wine, fermentation process takes between 4 and 6 weeks, and the temperature it is heated at is 15.5 degrees Celsius. The juice obtained from pressing the grapes is fermented with the skin and mash particles removed. To make red wine, fermentation will take approximately 2 weeks, and it's heated at 24 degrees Celsius. Red wine gets its color from the skin of the grapes that are left in the juice during the fermentation process. Both red and white wine go through a secondary fermentation process in the barrels, where flavor is added to the wine from the wood that the barrels are made from. The ethanol content of wine usually varies between 8 and 15% by volume. The third type of alcohol we will discuss is spirits. Spirits are made by using the distillation process. A liquid is made from base ingredients of sugars or starches, water, and yeast. The liquid is heated at high temperatures, which causes the ethanol and other substances to evaporate. The evaporated gas is collected and sent through a cooling tank where the gas is converted back to a liquid, which now contains less water and unwanted substances. Distillation increases the ethanol content and eliminates the base liquid that is not wanted. The liquid can be redistilled as many times as needed to increase the ethanol content. Distillation can occur in a pot still or in a column still. Pot stills are used to make cognac, malt whiskey, most Irish whiskeys, and some of the flavoring used in liqueurs. Using a pot still will allow greater retention of the original flavoring elements in the base liquid. After distillation, water is often added to achieve the desired strength of the beverage. Whiskey starts with malted grains. Gins and vodkas are produced from grains or potatoes. Rum is made from sugar cane and molasses. Tequila is distilled from a mash made up of cactus. There are different types of ways to account for the percentage of ethanol. The American version is called proof. Proof is equal to twice the percentage of ethanol by volume. So a spirit that contains 50% ethanol is labeled as 100 proof.
Alcohol is consumed orally through the mouth. Then it moves on to the stomach, where 20% of alcohol is absorbed into the stomach, and then it moves on to the small intestine, where 80% of the alcohol is absorbed there. Then it moves to the bloodstream. The bloodstream carries the alcohol to the parts of the body, such as the brain, the liver, and the heart. Next, it moves on to the liver. As the bloodstream carries the alcohol around the body, it passes through the liver, and the liver changes the alcohol to water, carbon dioxide, and energy. This process is called oxidation. The liver can oxidize only about 1/2 ounce of alcohol per hour. Thus, until the liver has time to oxidize all of the alcohol the alcohol continues to pass through all parts of the body, including the brain. Finally, it goes to the brain. Alcohol goes to the brain almost as soon as it is consumed. It continues passing through the brain until the liver oxidizes all of the alcohol into carbon dioxide, water, and energy. Thus, the more you drink, the harder it is for your body to oxidize, or your liver is to oxidize it. Now let's talk about the different effects when you have an increased blood alcohol level. So when we're at 0%, we're at normal, so we're at baseline. Then you continue to drink, have a few drinks, and you hit 0.05%, which is when your personality starts to change. You feel more relaxed, relief from your anxiety, maybe more talkative, assertive, feeling more confident in yourself. We move on, we keep having a few more drinks, then we get to 0.08. So then we start to have more impaired judgment, impaired cognition, impaired motor function. Keep drinking more and more, then you get to 0.15, which is a major motor impairment, slurred speech, impaired reaction time, blackouts. Keep moving forward. Having more drinks, then you get to 0.30%, which is an increased sedation and hypnosis, and then approaching comatose level. We keep on going, and we drink and drink and drink, and we hit 0.4%, which is the lethal dose for 50% of people. So when you reach that level, you're risking possibly dying from drinking. So let's talk about what alcohol does to your metabolism. It impairs metabolic performance via the effects of dehydration. It reduces your digestive absorption and reduces levels of sex hormones, messes with your sleep patterns and the way your liver functions, and it can cause weight gain. So what are the short-term effects of alcohol? You can have difficulty breathing, headaches, vomiting, tiredness, slurred speech, impaired judgment and vision, and a dopamine release that might make you feel like you have a stress relief or feel pleasure. You might also have confused speech, double vision. The alcohol levels in your blood will rise. Your liver might have a hard time breaking down the alcohol. You might start to urinate more, get dehydrated, feel clumsy or difficulty walking. Possibly, if your blood alcohol level is high enough, it could result in coma or death by alcohol poisoning. You could have lack of judgment or concentration. Your mood could change. You could have loss of memory or blackout, disrupted speech. Your sugar levels in your blood lower when you drink. You may have diarrhea, nausea, vomiting, inflamed lining, and it can also affect your sexual performance. What are the long-term effects of alcohol? Well, in the nervous system, long-term effects can cause an increase in likelihood of having a stroke, developing lesions on the brain, blacking out, having memory loss, an increased probability of getting dementia, having insomnia, chronic fatigue, and changes in mood and behavior. In the cardiovascular system, it can increase the likelihood of having anemia, hypertension, arrhythmias, cardiomyopathy, have a heart attack, or a stroke. In the digestive system, you may develop diabetes, have a pancreatitis, cirrhosis, fibrosis, alcohol hepatitis, fatty liver, inflammation in your intestines, have stomach ulcers, or cancer of the mouth or the esophagus. With your reproductive system, there is an increased risk of developing breast cancer and pregnancy complications in women, and impotence in men, and then in hormone imbalance in both men and women. It can also worsen your mental health symptoms such as depression, anxiety, PTSD. It can affect or have an effect on dual diagnoses. It can affect the nerves. It can affect your skin and how hydrated you are. It can lead to psoriasis and other skin infections. It can affect the pancreas, and heavy consumption of alcohol can lead to the production of toxic substances and increased risk of pancreatitis. It can increase the risk of stomach ulcers and heartburn, affecting the kidneys, and possibly causing long-term risk of kidney disease. Can affect the quality of your bones, and can affect your immune system, and it can impact the immune cells that are involved in fighting off respiratory diseases or other diseases.
While it is common for adults to have alcohol at least once in their life, of those adults, almost 7% develop an alcohol use disorder. As we know, alcohol has a very powerful effect on the brain as it produces pleasurable feelings that often encourage individuals to consume more alcohol. The more an individual drinks, the higher tolerance they build, requiring larger doses of alcohol to reach the same effects or intoxication. Over time, with chronic use of alcohol, it can become difficult to go back to baseline prior to use, which can lead individuals to consume more alcohol to avoid the negative effects in between use. So alcohol is often used to cope with stress, and research has shown that while alcohol may bring temporary relief of stress, it can increase or enhance the negative emotions experienced when not drinking, which can be a source of motivation for individuals to continue to drink to alleviate those feelings and emotional states. This can lead into the cycle of addiction. Continued consumption can alter brain functioning and structure as well, which can lead into the cycle of addiction, which involves 3 stages, including binge intoxication, withdrawal, negative effect, and preoccupation anticipation. Looking at the binge intoxication stage, this involves reward as the person drinking experiences the rewarding effects such as euphoria and personality changes from the alcohol use. This activates the basal ganglia, as you can see in the image, and when this area is activated, this reinforces the continued consumption of alcohol to receive the same rewards. This is where the motivation and urge to drink comes from, and it can lead to habit formation. The negative effect withdrawal stage involves the negative feelings and physical and emotional symptoms associated with withdrawal. The basal ganglia is not being activated, but the extended amygdala is, which involves the stress systems of the brain, resulting in feelings of anxiety or irritability. This is when the shift happens where an individual consumes alcohol to avoid the negative feelings that occur when not consuming. The preoccupation anticipation stage involves alcohol cravings and figuring out how to consume more and when this will happen. This negatively impacts the functioning of the prefrontal cortex, which is where our ability to think and make decisions comes from. With this, it's important to note that someone can enter this cycle at any stage and can go through the cycle at any amount of time. Alcohol withdrawal can come with a wide variety of symptoms that vary in nature and severity. The early stage of withdrawal may include tremor or shaking, increased heart rate, increased blood pressure, increased body temperature, anxiety, insomnia and sleep disturbances, disorientation, and even mild convulsions. Symptoms within the late stage can include delirium tremens, which involves severe and vivid hallucinations and psychotic-like behavior. It can also include more severe form of some of the same symptoms within the early stage, such as anxiety, insomnia, tremor, and disorientation. It can include paranoia, nausea and vomiting, sweating, diarrhea, fever, which can be high and life-threatening, agitation, shock, and while not a symptom but more so a risk, it can lead to death. Something that I thought was interesting is that research done with rats looking at the impact of alcohol withdrawal included symptoms such as irritability, hyperresponsiveness, abnormal motor responses, anxiety, lower reward, and even seizures with increased amounts of alcohol. When it comes to risks and benefits of alcohol consumption, it's important to look at the characteristics of use. So, for example, there are many health risks associated with chronic heavy use of alcohol, but these risks may not be as high with low to moderate use. Some of the different risks include sexual dysfunction and menstrual dysfunction, such as early menopause related to heavy consumption, an increase in risky sexual behavior, and others might include a weakened immune system, learning and memory issues, social and relationship issues, mental health issues, and then we go into more of the physical health risks, which includes digestive issues, liver and heart disease, high blood pressure, increased risk of cancer, stroke, diabetes, Wernicke-Korsakoff syndrome, which is a brain disorder that can cause damage to the brain, accidental injuries, such as with car accidents, for example, and even death, as there are over 140,000 alcohol-related deaths in the United States each year. Individuals who consume alcohol are at an increased risk of cancer within the stomach, liver, gallbladder, pancreas, and lungs. Something that I thought was interesting, even just one serving of alcohol a day increases the risk of breast cancer by 5 to 15%, and by 61% when an individual has 3 or more drinks a day compared to someone who doesn't consume any alcohol. So then shifting to the benefits of alcohol use, there are personal benefits. In low amounts, it can increase ability to be social and talkative, increase sedation and hypnosis, and it also produces mild euphoria, which is associated with increase in mood, confidence, good feelings, and assertiveness. Something that I found interesting is studies show that low to moderate amounts of alcohol are actually beneficial for the cardiovascular system and can decrease mortality. But there's a lack of benefits related to chronic and heavy use of alcohol, as there are many associated physical and mental health risks.
The current prevalence in alcohol consumption, based on data obtained between the years 2021 and 2022, show that 65% of Americans 21 and older reported that they drank alcohol at some point during the year. 57% of women reported drinking. 63% of men reported drinking. The racial and ethnic differences in alcohol consumption shows that 68% white non-Hispanic people have consumed alcohol within this time frame. 59% of Hispanic individuals have consumed alcohol during this time frame, and 50% Black non-Hispanic individuals also reported consuming alcohol. The preference of people drinking alcohol between 2021 and 2022 showed that 35% showed a preference for beer, 31% showed a preference for wine, and 30% had a preference for liquor. In a study done between May of 2020 and 2021, 90% of millennials purchased alcohol. Of the Gen Z generation, that's 21 and older, 84% purchased alcohol in that time frame. In a separate study looking at October to November of 2022, the drinking trends for generations is shown below. Millennials consumed alcoholic beverages, 47% spirits, 45% beer, 45% wine, 39% hard seltzers, 37% craft beer, and 29% drank canned cocktails. Gen X's consumption of alcoholic beverages in October to November of 2022 showed that 39 to 43% drank spirits, beer, and wine, and less than 29% drank hard seltzers, craft beer, and canned cocktails. The baby boomers generation consumed alcohol at 31 to 34% spirit, beer, and wine. 18% of baby boomers drank craft beer. 12% drank hard seltzers, and only 7% drank canned cocktails. The image on the screen shows that Americans' use of alcohol from 1939 to 2021 has ebbed and flowed in usage. Starting in 1939, 58% of Americans reported drinking alcohol. And in 2021, that figure is now at 60% of Americans drinking alcohol. In 1770, Americans consumed on average 3.5 gallons of alcohol per year. 1830, that number rose to 7.1 gallons of alcohol per year. Americans began to realize that drinking alcohol was becoming a moral problem. In 1860, that number fell to 2.5 gallons of alcohol, which is right at the brink of the Civil War. January 16, 1919, Prohibition was set into law and became a part of the Constitution as the 18th Amendment. Prohibition banned the manufacture and sale of alcohol, which limited the consumption. February 16, 1933, the 21st Amendment was entered into law and it ended the Prohibition era. That next year, it was reported that Americans were drinking 1 gallon of alcohol per year. In 1945, that number rose back up to 2.3 gallons of alcohol per year, which is right around the end of World War II. In 1980, Americans drank 2.8 gallons per year, and today, Americans on average drink 2.3 gallons of alcohol a year.